So a whole lot going on with Joe Biden this morning. He has now been diagnosed with COVID. There is a now very public effort to pressure him out coming from the top echelons of Democrats. We're talking Schumer, Pelosi, Jeffries, et cetera. But Ryan, before we jump into that, just a reminder to all of you guys that Ryan just launched Drop Site News. I understand the launch has gone fantastic. There's been big support from the Breaking Points and Counterpoints universe, and you've got a discount going, right, Ryan?
Yes, for Breaking Points and Counterpoints viewers, you guys can get 20% off your subscriptions. That's what, the journalism will remain free, but it's the subscriptions that make the investigative work possible. So it's dropsitenews.com/counterpoints. We'll put the link down there, but just go to that URL and you'll get 20% off your subscription. And thanks everybody for the support. The first week and a half, it's been really gratifying. And I think we're in liftoff. Like I think we're going to make it, and I think we're going to be around for a long time to come, doing a lot of damage. And Krystal, thanks to you guys too. The Breaking Points community has really come out for it, that's who you want to be beholden to. Like if you got to be beholden to somebody, if you got to serve somebody, that's who you want to serve.
I could not possibly disagree with that. So guys, go ahead and do that. Ryan and Jeremy have already broken some incredible stories just in the first, what are you, a week into this, a little more than a week into this, and already have made some major news. So it's definitely worth you guys giving your support if you're able. Let's go ahead and get to the news with regards to Biden. We can put this tear sheet up on the screen. So he has tested positive for COVID-19. He's having to cancel events because of this diagnosis. We can also put this video up on the screen, just continuing to show how feeble he is at this point in his life. You can see there through the window him really having to be assisted, almost like lifted into the car. You can sort of make that out through the rain from the side here, see him being put in. And part of why this is so significant is because, let's go ahead and put the next piece up on the screen. This diagnosis is significant because it came right after news leaked that Biden had privately said he might quit the presidential race if a medical condition emerged. Now, I don't know that COVID was the medical condition that he was referring to there, but this was in an interview with BET. He was asked, is there anything that you would look to you personally to say, if I see that, I will reevaluate? And Biden said, quote, if I had some medical condition that emerged, if doctors came to me and said, you got this problem, that problem, Biden indicated that he would be receptive to getting out of the race. Ryan, we've got like a whole slew of Biden developments that we're going to get to. As I said, you've got now Pelosi and Schumer really making more public their desires to push him out. You have him seemingly more open to the conversation. Not that he's saying he's going to get out, but he's not just like out and out ruling it out. What do you make of these most recent developments?
Well, he had also said that he would only take advice on this question from the Almighty.
Right.
So you can read into that what you want about the timing of this. Right after he says medical condition, I looked it up. The last time that he had COVID, he was in isolation for 16 days, which is what the CDC recommendation is like 5 minutes at this point. So 16 days when you have just a few days left of the entire presidential campaign, and this pushes you close to the Democratic National Convention, does put, I think, extra pressure, especially as Democrats are, and we're going to talk about this, getting much more public and vocal about the pressure that they're putting on him. And not just Democrats, not just the 2/3 of Democratic voters who say they want him to step down, but the most powerful Democrats, aside from the president in the country, are now telling him very directly and to his face exactly what the RNC crowd was chanting. Joe must go.
Yeah, it could have been Nancy Pelosi in the crowd leading those chants. Well, I mean, the COVID diagnosis, it kind of cuts both ways, doesn't it? Because on the one hand, it's another indication of like, hey, the Almighty might be sending you those signals, buddy. And also, listen, everybody gets sick. But, at his age, it once again raises the specter. Okay, this is a much more serious illness for someone at his age and in his whatever his health condition is. But the COVID diagnosis also gives him an excuse to stop doing the interviews and appearances he's been doing that have not been going particularly well. We have a little bit of a mashup of his appearance at the NAACP, and this was put together. And you can see even on a teleprompter, he's struggling to complete sentences, finish his thoughts, and is completely oblivious to his own major policy announcement with regard to housing. He means to say at one point that he's going to cap rent increases at 5%. And he says he's going to cap rent at $55. So just, a horrific blunder, which in other conditions, maybe you say, all right, well, he just screwed up once. But obviously, this is not just a one-time screw up. Let's take a listen to a little bit of how this appearance went.
I know you say, Joe, you may not have a Congress. Well, guess what? You all told me I couldn't pass the Inflation Reduction Act. You all told me I couldn't face it. Anyway, we did it. We're going to bring rents down, as I said. We're going to build 2 million affordable homes and cap rent increases of 5% a year so corporate landlords can't God. Anyway, I don't want to get going. I'm going to get very upset. But there's gouging America. And by the way, not only saves lives, it will save taxpayers, just what I did on the first round on dealing with Medicare. It saves the taxpayer $160 billion because they don't have to pay these exorbitant prices to these. Anyway, the idea that corporate-owned housing is able to raise your rent $300-400 a month or something, under what I'm about to announce, they can't raise it more than $55.
I mean, you can just see the confused look on his face in that last part as he leans in. This is off a teleprompter, Ryan. This was the one thing we thought maybe he could still sort of stumble his way through.
It's, I just wanted to confirm this on my keyboard. The percentage sign is above the 5. Like, did some intern write 55 and forget to hit the shift key? And so it says 55. But if you're the president, you got to know your own policy. It makes no sense. Like, there's no Democratic policy that's going to say that rent can't go up by more than $55. Like, no matter what your rent already was. Like, if your rent is $100, it can still go up by 55. Or if it's 5,000, it goes. Come on, your mind has to be able to say, even if it was a typo on the teleprompter, your mind has to be able to oh, I know what my policy is. It's 5%.
Yeah,
it's a 5% increase.
As people who read off teleprompters, sometimes. Especially because we write our own stuff. Sometimes we make mistakes when we write it. We got to be aware enough when we're reading it to be like, wait a minute, that's not the shit that I meant to say.
Yes, exactly. You can't be like, oh, well, I guess the new policy is $55. I wish, though, that was the rule, that whatever the president says goes.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, he said it and the crowd ratified it by cheering.
Done.
That's the new law. Done.
That's it. It's happening.
Yes.
It's also interesting because just before the assassination attempt on Trump completely shifted the conversation and sort of put the Biden dropout conversation on hold, at least for a few days, you had reporting about this disastrous Zoom call that he had with this group of moderate Democrats. I can put this up on the screen because we now have the leaked audio. I knew it was going to come out. The leaked audio of this video. And he, in particular, goes after this Democratic representative, Jason Crow, who is a military veteran. And they say in this reporting, right before the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, a group of moderate Hill Democrats had a tense Zoom call to express concern. According to one of the participants, they said the call was even worse than the debate. He was rambling. He'd start an answer and then lose his train of thought, then would just say, whatever. Sort of like that clip we just showed you where when his mind wanders off, he just says anyway to get out of the fact that he has no idea where his sentence is going. He really couldn't complete an answer, they go on to say. I lost a ton of respect for him. Another participant in the call confirmed that characterization. The president was rambling, dismissive of concerns, unable or unprepared to present a campaign strategy, had a particularly troubling exchange with Jason Crow saying to him, quote, tell me something you've never done with your Bronze Star like my son. This member of Congress told me, had the assassination attempt not occurred an hour later, I imagine 50 people on that Zoom were ready to come out publicly against him. And, that comment to Jason Crow, to Congressman Crow, Ryan, it kind of has it all because it's got this tone of disrespect and belligerence, but is also a completely incoherent sentence.
Right. And it has the public has finally gotten to see what his ex-staffers have been saying about him for 50 years, which is that He's not the happy Joe, the happy warrior internally with his staff. He's very short-tempered, and his ego and his arrogance get the better of him, and he lashes out at people in really cutting and nasty ways. And you could not have a better example of that than incoherently attacking a guy over his Bronze Star. Exactly, like you said, what are you even saying here? Mm-hmm. Are you criticizing him for it, but you're not, because you're saying like your son had it also. But then that same answer is where he went on this like tirade about how he had brought together AUKUS and all of the foreign policy work that he had done in the Indo-Pacific. And he's also the guy that brought together NATO. Nobody else can make that argument to the American public. AUKUS, AUKUS, AUKUS. And it's like, what do you, like, you are supposed to be a good politician with your finger on the pulse. Like, find me a single voter anywhere in the country who does not have as his job, like, working for a foreign agent who's like involved with this kind of security pact in the Indo-Pacific, who cares about that. Right. And Jason Crow said that. Jason Crow's like, that's not breaking through, Mr. President. And Biden, according to that audio, was like, well, I'm tired of this crap. It's like, this is not doing it, man.
Yeah, well, it is interesting. And it goes back to the decision that his team made to have his big boy press conference be about NATO, because that's clearly the area where he's still most comfortable, most cogent. I mean, the borderline obsession. And
that was smart, because you don't have to be remotely smart on foreign policy to impress Western journalists. All you have to do is name the countries correctly. Right. Half the time, because he got them wrong the other half the time, but at least he like got them, like he was able to name them. Yeah. And it's like, oh wow, okay, that's pretty good. Those are foreign countries, and you said their names, and probably knows the capitals. That's impressive.
I mean, the irony here is, listen, before Joe Biden was, complicit and involved in committing a genocide, I was making the case for his domestic policy, because there are genuinely things there that are worth talking about and celebrating. And, this is why I think Bernie and AOC and others foolishly and, without any sort of moral character are his staunchest allies at this point. But if you look at antitrust, if you look at labor, it is a break and a major improvement from Obama. But, if you support those sorts of policies, it makes no sense to try to push them through such a damaged vessel that it's going to do nothing but undercut the power of that sort of politics, because people will say, hey, Joe Biden ran on, rent control and ran on antitrust in this program you guys won, and he got absolutely wiped out across the country. So I think it's an incredibly foolish direction to go. And I have a couple of polls I just want to put up too before we bring in Dave Weigel to talk about the sort of, major Democratic elite push to get him out, because I don't want people to have the impression that this is just an elite push to get him out. Let's put this up on the screen. 70% of the country in a new poll says they want Joe Biden to withdraw from the presidential race. And oh, by the way, that includes 65% of Democrats and 77% of independents. By the way, 57% of the country also wants Donald Trump to withdraw, in a sign of how not enamored the country is with having these two men engage in a rematch here. And then let's put this next piece up on the screen from Politico, because this is also interesting. Biden indicated that if he could be convinced that he couldn't win and someone else could, then maybe that would be a factor in consideration. Well, you've got new polling that looks at a range of alternative Democratic candidates. They all run ahead of Biden by an average of 3 points across battleground states. Now, what's interesting here, though, Ryan, is that, and this won't be a really surprise to us, but Vice President Kamala Harris still runs better than Biden, but is the weakest of the potential alternatives. And effectively, the more closely tied you are to the Biden administration, the worse you perform. So the strongest potential candidates were Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, Maryland Governor Wes Moore, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, and Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. All four outpaced Biden by roughly 5 points across battleground states. So you can see this polling and it being, leaked to Politico Playbook, which is the ultimate, DC insider group. You could see this also as a play against Kamala Harris of making the accurate case that, listen, if you really are prioritizing defeating Donald Trump and you're willing to push out Joe Biden to do it, why are you then going to go automatically for the next weakest possible candidate here in Kamala Harris?
Yeah, and putting in the astronaut hero Mark Kelly feels a little bit too 1990s, but of course, yeah, like all of them are going to outperform Kamala Harris. I feel terrible saying it to our coconut-pilled audience who is really rallied behind her, but yeah, she's not the most electable of that bunch, I don't think. Now she might have it locked up anyway, like that, just because of the nature of the Democratic Party establishment, that they're only willing to kind of rock the boat so much. On the other hand, like if you're rocking the boat so much that you're ousting your presumptive nominee, 2 months before the election, like you're in revolutionary times. Just go all the way. Like take the final step and open the process up and let these candidates compete and see who wins. And if Kamala Harris wins, then great. She shouldn't just fall out of a coconut tree, right?
That's right. Yeah, and I think there's a chance she would win in that open process, that, quote unquote open process. Listen, we're at a place where the chance for a truly democratic process, unfortunately, has passed. And that is the fault of Joe Biden, his aides, and Democratic elites who closed down really a primary process. I mean, in some cases, literally. Yes. First of all, they had no debates. Second of all, in certain states, they literally did not have a primary, just pulled everybody off the ballot. So, the chance to have a truly democratic process has unfortunately passed. But I agree with your assessment that even through an open convention process where you have the public watching these speeches and watching this all unfold sort of Celebrity Apprentice style, it could create a lot of energy and excitement. And I think really could be a problem for the Trump-Vance ticket, who right now think that they are, sailing free and clear and are on their way to a historic landslide in which they're very likely to take they're almost definitely going to take the Senate and very likely to take the House along with them.
Yeah, you get a Bravo production crew and you put the cameras around each one of these, J.B. Pritzker, Shapiro, Whitmer, all of them. You have them follow them around just like they're reality TV stars. You edit that, you roll the episodes out. You have them each do confessionals, talking about how they're thinking about each scene. Then you roll that through the convention. You will have a public. I'm half joking, but not really. You will have a public that is actually connected to you as a political party. Imagine that, a sense of legitimacy between the public. The public feels like there is a sense of legitimacy between themselves and these reality TV empires that have grown up. They feel like their sentiments are democratically represented on the screen because the way that they feel, the way that they post on social media, is then reflected back to them in the show as people respond to that and feel the heat. That is American culture now. And whichever political party recognizes that first is going to be the one that makes a real connection with the American public. And the current Republican Party is led by a reality TV star. Mm-hmm. He happens to be a deranged one. So that's the only thing that gives the Democratic Party an opening. But it's right there for the taking if they would just open up their imaginations a little bit.
Yeah, let's build some parasocial relationships with Andy Beshear, J.B. Pritzker, yes. Mark Kelly, Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, the whole lot of them. See who comes down on top.
Got to be first name with all of them. Andy.
That's right.
JB. Yeah.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.